Today, we're tackling a mystery that trips up some of the smartest people you know. We're going to dig into a framework that might just completely change how you think about and deal with your financial life for good. So here's the big question, right? Why do brilliant, super capable people, we're talking doctors, engineers, you name it, so often make a complete mess of their money? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. And spoiler alert, it has absolutely nothing to do with how smart they are. To make this real, let's talk about someone. Let's call him Dr. Evans. Now, in the operating room, this guy is a rock star, a brilliant heart surgeon. He's a master of logic, of incredibly complex systems. His entire world is built on precision and following proven steps. But then you pull back the curtain on his finances, and it's chaos. He's got a maxed out credit card from buying a fancy watch after a tough week at work. His retirement account barely has a pulse. He's just hemorrhaging money on streaming services he doesn't even watch. I mean, this is a man who can literally hold a human heart in his hands, but he feels a jolt of pure panic just looking at his bank balance. What on earth is going on here? And this right here is the absolute heart of the issue. Dr. Evans's problem has nothing to do with his IQ. It's not about finding a better spreadsheet. It's a wholeness problem. And this is exactly why most financial advice just doesn't work. It's only talking to a tiny part of who he is. And look, this isn't just about Dr. Evans. It's about all of us, isn't it? It's that maddening gap between what we know we should do and what we actually do. We know we should save, but that splurge feels so good. We know we need a plan, but just thinking about it is overwhelming. See, it's not a knowledge problem. It's an execution problem. The reason that old school advice fails is that it's like someone handing you a perfect map for a road trip, but completely ignoring the fact that you're in the middle of a hurricane. It talks to the logical, rational part of your brain, but totally forgets about your fears, your energy levels, and your sense of purpose. The only real solution has to speak to your whole self. So, what is that solution? It's something called the Quadrafit framework. And the best way to picture it is like a sturdy table with 4 legs. Each leg is absolutely essential. You've got the mental leg, that's your how-to and your systems. The emotional leg, your self-awareness and triggers. The physical, your raw energy. And finally, the spiritual, your purpose, your why. You can't have a stable table with just one leg, right? Well, your financial life can't either. All right, let's start building this table leg by leg. First up, the mental domain. This is where all the traditional finance stuff lives. The plans, the systems, the spreadsheets. But here's the secret. The goal isn't just to have a plan. It's to build a system that works on autopilot, so you don't have to rely on your very flawed, very human willpower every single day. And this is what that beautiful automation looks like. The second your paycheck hits your account, the system kicks in. It automatically sends money to your savings. Then it automatically sends money to your investments. This makes building wealth your default setting. And the best part, whatever's left over in your checking account is all yours to spend, completely and totally guilt-free. Okay, but even a perfect system is totally useless if your emotions can just come in and hijack it whenever they want. And that brings us to the second leg of our table, the emotional domain, or the heart. If your systems are the blueprint for the house, your feelings are that unpredictable weather that can level the whole project. And a lot of that emotional weather comes from these things called money scripts. These are the unconscious beliefs about money we all picked up as kids. You know, things you heard like, we're just not money people, or you have to work your fingers to the bone to get by. They're like these invisible puppeteers pulling your strings, controlling your behavior today, until you finally turn around and see them. And this right here is the civil war that creates inside your head. Your logical mind, your mental domain is saying, hey, be fearful when others are greedy. But your emotional brain, the emotional domain, is just screaming, FOMO, everybody's getting rich without me. Logic says buy low, sell high. Emotion hits the big red panic button and sells everything at the absolute worst possible time. This is where the heart completely overpowers the mind. So, we've got a system and we're starting to get a handle on our emotions. But what's actually fueling this whole operation? What gives you the energy to follow through on the plan? And what gives you the motivation to stick with it when things get tough? Well, that brings us to our last 2 legs, the body and the spirit. I just love this quote because it completely flips the script. We tend to think of things like a gym membership or buying healthy food as an expense, but this framework sees them as the highest return investment you could possibly make. You're not just spending money. You are actively investing in your greatest asset, your human capital, your energy, your clarity, your ability to show up and earn. And just think about it for a second. When you're wiped out, totally exhausted, what happens? Your willpower just evaporates. You make bad decisions. You order that expensive takeout because you're too tired to cook. You scroll on your phone and make impulse buys you don't need. You put off making that important phone call about your finances. Brain fog is expensive. It creates all these tiny little leaks that can sink even the most perfectly designed ship. And that leads us to the fourth, and maybe the most powerful leg of our table, the spirit. You know, your bank statement is a brutally honest diary of what you actually value. Not what you say you value. You might say you value your health or time with family, but what does your spending really say? Is your money flowing towards the things that light you up, or is it getting siphoned off by subscriptions you forgot you had and late-night impulse buys? This is probably the single biggest shift in perspective in this whole framework. We are obsessed, absolutely obsessed, with asking, how much money do I need? The spiritual domain forces us to ask a much, much better question. What is all this money for? When you answer that question, when you get crystal clear on the life you're trying to build, you suddenly have a North Star for every single dollar you spend. Okay, so we've got these four powerful ideas: mind, heart, body, and spirit. But how do you actually use this? How do you put it all together in a way that's not overwhelming? Well, it all comes down to a really simple, sustainable 15-minute ritual you can do every single week. This is it. That's the whole thing. Once a week, maybe on a Sunday evening, you just sit down and ask yourself these four questions, one for each leg of the table. You check in on your systems, you reflect on any emotional spending, you think about how your energy levels played out, and you make sure your spending is actually lining up with your deeper purpose. This isn't a chore. It's a practice of becoming more aware of yourself. So let's bring it all back to Dr. Evans. He didn't turn his life around by finding a slicker budgeting out. He fixed his life by building a sturdy four-legged table. He automated his finances, he identified his emotional spending triggers, he started prioritizing his sleep and his health, and he connected his money to a purpose bigger than just buying stuff. He didn't just fix his finances, he fixed the whole person. And that really brings us to the ultimate point of all of this. Wealth isn't about hitting a certain number in your bank account. True financial peace is when your financial life is in complete integrity with your mind, your heart, your body, and your spirit. It's when your money stops being a source of stress and starts being a perfect reflection of who you truly are. So I'll just leave you with this one thought. Instead of asking yourself what's wrong with your budget or your spreadsheet, ask yourself this. Which of your four domains, your mind, your heart, your body, or your spirit, needs the most attention from you right now? Because I promise you, the answer to that question might just be the key to everything.